Disappointments are everywhere. Movie adaptations of game franchises, your teammates during a ranked game, The Mirror, and some of our most anticipated games. Here are 10 disappointing releases of 2024 so far.
Quadruple A. That's 4.
If there was something worth pirating, it's this pirate game. Jesting aside, Skull and Bones was Ubisoft's ambitious tribute to the popular Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
You can't swim.
It was supposed to be gaming's next big leap for naval warfare. Backed with a big budget, Ubisoft even referred to it as the first quadruple A game of all time.
My boat ran out of stamina. This tree is gone too.
Triple A, piece of shit.
Even with all that cash, the game still went through developmental hells and delays. In total, it took 11 years to make a boring game. So boring, in fact, that beta testers quit out of boredom. It was not the game we were promised. For a pirate game, sure, it gives the feeling for becoming one with the seas, maybe too much like the ocean. It was empty and bare bones. And for $70? No way.
Why is this one $70? Well, because it's a quadruple A game.
Most of the activities were repetitive and it's littered with bugs. Don't get me wrong, it's not horrible, it's just painfully average. There are better games this year that deserve the $70 price tag. What games disappointed you the most? We'd love to hear your story in the comments section.
Its map is lifeless, its enemies are idiotic.
It's bad. It's just outright bad.
How can a game that no longer exists continue to disappoint us? The day before, that's how. It came out early this year. It had zombies, survival, and multiplayer. 3 very popular genres that were sure to sell like hotcakes. Think Left 4 Dead and The Last of Us, but open world. It was so anticipated that it became one of Steam's most wishlisted games. So, what happened? It was all a scam, that's how.
How are you feeling?
I want to uninstall.
The promised MMO survival game was a cheap mocktail of off-the-shelf assets, hype, and broken promises. There was no direction or vision, and the lack of progression hurt players who were looking to play it long-term. It was the same mechanics again and again. Stock up in camp, head outside to gather resources, and when you die, just rinse and repeat. The players were understandably furious. It only took 4 days of review bombing to force the developers to delist the game. Ugh, what a shit show. Lara Croft has had numerous adaptations over the years, some pretty successful too. However, this latest remaster of Lara's good old days failed to hit that nostalgic sweet spot. Yes, this remastered collection brought on quality of life improvements, especially in the movement, but it also brought back some frustrating aspects of the original, like the dated controls and simplistic UI. For players new to the game, navigating the game was a challenge in of itself. It is a solid remaster, sure, but one that's built especially for hardcore fans of the series. Casual players who want to revisit Lara's early tomb raiding days might find it too cumbersome. If you want Lara Croft action, you're better off with a rebooted trilogy. Okay, before you get your pitchforks out, let's cut to the chase. Dragon's Dogma 2 is not a bad game. In fact, it was an impressive sequel that outshined the original, so why is it on the list? For one, the game's performance was abysmal at launch, and because of poor optimization, PC players had to scramble to find fixes. It was such a perplexing issue that Digital Foundry uploaded a series of videos just talking about it. Thankfully, the game is now in a playable state, but that brings us to our second issue. Capcom's unnecessary integration of microtransactions. Although completely optional and are easy to get in the game, the fact that it's in a single-player game should anger a lot of players. It wasn't a bad game, just a disappointing launch that got everyone riled up. Let's hope Capcom learns from this in their future titles.
Are you denying that you were gearing up your entire army to attack our fucking base?
Says who?
Says Clyde!
And do you always trust what Clyde says?
Hell no, Clyde's a total dumbass!
There's no shortage of Cartman, Kenny, Stan, and Kyle in pop culture. Snow Day is South Park's version of a multiplayer brawler, a clear move to monetize the Colorado Kids adventure in a live service format. After the success of Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole, it's a surprise to see South Park devolve into a game with zero integrity. Snow Day is a lackluster experience, solo or with friends. Heck, not even your funniest friend can save you from the frustration of this unoptimized mayhem.
When you attack an enemy, there is literally zero feedback. No rumble, no sound effects indicating you're attacking, nothing.
Bugs are everywhere, completely flushing down the kid's signature toilet humor. The Steam reviews currently stands at mixed, with over 2,000 gamers disappointed with its unfinished state. At least we got good old South Park memes at its review section. Right now, Snow Day isn't worth it at $30. It still has a lot of things that need fixing. If the developers can't listen to a player's feedback, this'll be worth $350. Ubisoft takes the opportunity to develop its own live service money-making machine. XDefiant aimed to rival FPS giants like Call of Duty. It pits iconic Ubisoft IPs in a crossover project of your favorite franchises. You get to see familiar locations from Far Cry, Watch Dogs, and more. The biggest indicator of success for any live service game is player count. Unfortunately, we don't know the exact number since Ubisoft likes to keep it hush-hush to maximize shareholder value. But thanks to a few players resorting to checking Twitch views, we now know that the player count is in a concerning downtrend. Right now the game is playable with the occasional issue with its netcode. Matchmaking also takes a long time, with many players unable to find lobbies. It failed to be the Call of Duty killer. While the game is enjoyable at best, XDefiant could not hold a candle to the industry giants. Who knows, maybe next season we can see a surge in new and returning players. It is a free-to-play game after all.
Sightline black. That's like the worst color you could use on a crosshair. What the
Alone in the Dark made a name for itself in the classic horror game libraries. It was on par with Silent Hill and Resident Evil back in the day. Like its peers, it was enough to scare the living crap out of us. Yet even with the developer's passion for a clear-cut reboot, Alone in the Dark suffered from mediocrity. The game was in a sad state when it was released. Controls were frustrating and the scares weren't as terrifying. The reboot did check all the boxes needed for a modern survival horror. The puzzles were fascinating and the oppressive atmosphere remained the same. Sadly, everything else was a lukewarm attempt to rekindle the original success. It was heartbreaking considering the developers poured their heart and soul into this project. Maybe given enough time, the problems could have been mitigated, but too little, too late. The studio responsible for this game unfortunately shut down. Bad omen for the future of the gaming industry.
There are some very disturbed figures around here.
And now, we begin.
Now this one's interesting. MultiVersus was an ambitious crossover fighting game that would have rivaled Nintendo's Smash. It was a celebration of iconic Warner Bros. IPs such as Samurai Jack, Looney Tunes, DC Comics, and even LeBron James. After taking its time in early access 2 years ago, it was pulled from all stores entirely to fix its glaring issues. Fast forward to 2024 when MultiVersus made its return, everybody was ready to duke it out with their mains, happy to see them all come back from the dead, but it's hard to be happy with the game's so-called renewed state. The result was the same game years ago, only with more microtransactions. This predatory shift from the once consumer-friendly free-to-play model downgraded it into a cash grab. You can't just play any hero you want, you have to purchase them. Or if you have the patience for it, you can grind through its tedious Battle Pass rewards. That means you're stuck with its rotating set of heroes or using the default ones you already have. To make matters worse, you can't even try out heroes via training mode. It's a shame, really, since MultiVersus was a promising fighting game made by experienced FGC devs. Maybe a redemption arc is coming soon?
So long, Jack.
No retreats. No excuses. Now get out there.
One thing about Star Wars content is that it could either be incredibly good or bad depending on its fans. This game does not seem to be the case, as it is generally terrible.
I'm trying! I can't! You're broken. Oh no, I got force lag.
This compilation of all the beloved Battlefront classic titles is a mess. For a game that boasts a massive multiplayer lobby full of players, the devs forgot to account for better servers for its gigantic fanbase. This massive oversight crippled player hype as they couldn't find decent matches without server issues. Players weren't even sure to call it a repackage since it is a hilariously bad part. Controller support was confusing, and it had as many bugs as the original. This low-effort attempt at a mini remaster only highlighted the original as the best way to play. So, go out and boot the original game, mod it to your liking, and enjoy the true Battlefront experience. Before we move on to the last item in this list, 3 more games that disappointed us this year are Insurgency Sandstorm. The game's successful releases on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One failed to carry over to its PS5 and Series X release. Bandletale, a League of Legends story. This crafting RPG didn't just tickle the fancy of many gamers. No one seemed to care. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Wrath of the Mutants. I expected more. It's short, boring, and doesn't justify the $30 price tag.
Task Force X.
Who are we killing?
The Justice League. Show me what you got.
Perhaps the biggest blunder this year is none other than Rocksteady's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The moment they announced it as a live service looter shooter, it was over. It was not what the community wanted from Rocksteady after the massive success of the Batman Arkham trilogy. What happened next was a prime example of I told you so. The game flopped, and it flopped hard. After its initial launch week, player count dropped to an abysmal level. Most of it is caused by its unstable servers and repetitive gameplay loop. It's as if Rocksteady just copied successful formulas from popular live service games and slapped on their rogue mercenaries. There was no thrill to defeating each of the Justice League. All players had to do was shoot with their guns until the boss health dropped to 0.
Disappointing.
Even with its post-launch roadmap, not a lot of players were looking forward to returning to Metropolis. The latest updates added Joker and Mrs. Freeze, but not even those two were enough to win back player trust. Rocksteady, known for their linear superhero action games, just wasn't well equipped to compete in the volatile live service market. As a result, we just got 100 or 200 people playing it daily.
Disappointing.
It was a ticking time bomb from the very beginning, one that even Amanda Waller couldn't deactivate. It's only a matter of time before they pull off its servers.